Many of these little waxbills have been coming into the country for so many years that we now take it for granted that they're always going to be here. But with import restrictions getting closer and closer, and even a ban possible, these birds will soon disappear because there's not enough people breeding them. Most are still bred in garden aviaries, so it's very hit and miss. So it depends on what sort of weather you get as to how good a breeding year you get. This species in particular, the orange cheek waxbill, would be one of the first to disappear, because if they're mixed as a group, then there will be one of the more submissive species, and they're often bullied by the dominant birds that they're mixed with. For example, cordon blues, common fire finches, and various other things, and it just stops their chances of breeding altogether. Another theory about these birds is that they should be put in a colony, but again, this doesn't work with this species, and single pairs, either in a mixed collection or in their own little environment, is a far better option. Some species of waxbill are more reliant on insects than others. This bird, the black crown waxbill, they love the seeding grasses. You can't beat seeding grasses because it's what they eat in the natural environment. Unfortunately, we only have them for a few months of the year, but you've always got an option if you can of perhaps freezing it and taking it out when you need it. But they do enjoy these seeding grasses. An option for when I can't get hold of this stuff, I use the red anjou millet sprays, and they again work with this species as they love them. This is the swee or yellow-bellied waxbill. I think they're very delicate birds, perhaps not ideal for most people, as they don't seem to be very long-lived. But they are willing breeders if you can get them into a suitable environment. They will display in front of you. Birds are monomorphic, means you can't sex them visually really. The cock here is a better example than the hen, which is still molting at the moment. Feathers are important to most waxbills. They use them both for building the nest and for displaying with. This is the nest of an orange cheek waxbill. As you can see, that's the tunnel right on the bottom of the brick there, leads right up, and then there's an extra section at the top which is the cock's nest. This is in a small indoor aviary, about 2'6" square. The trouble with orange cheeks is they're very easily disturbed and they soon come off the nest, but they are lovely little birds. This is the nest of a black crown waxbill. Although you can't see the chicks in there at the moment because it's very dark, the telltale sign that everything is well is the fresh droppings on the nest itself. This is a few days later, and the chicks have fledged, and within 24 hours of fledging they'd found their way onto this bunch of seeding grass. As you can see, they're still only very young. Here the bird's a little bit older. As you can see, it's picking at the grass itself. in this aviary is just a small colony of black crown waxbills, nothing else. It was the first time I'd had these birds, but within only a few months that these chicks were flying about. As you can see, this grass, they love this grass. You'll find that they ignore the hard seed when this is available. This is exactly what they'd eat in the wild. The thing about these black crown waxbills, they fledge at between 20 to 24 days, and they're quite well advanced, so they're soon able to fly about and get to feeding themselves, and they'll be topped up by their parents at the same time. You can see these chicks are just going to be fed. This is the baby of the three. This one came out last. It's probably a day or so younger than the other two. Here's another pair of birds just playing about in a nest. They tend to carry little brown objects about. This is a bit of leaf it's doing. Just why they have this, I don't know. Doesn't take them long to get the nest as they like it. Seem to be very busy once they start. This is rather a dull day, so the picture's not very good. All the nest building's going on, the chicks are still feeding themselves, and the parents will still be topping them up for the next couple of weeks. It just dropped fortunate that these chicks hatched when the grass was ready. And we're replenishing this a couple of times a week. It's surprising just how much they get through. But as I say, these birds, they had access to egg food, which they had a little bit of, mini mealworms, which they ignored, and various other seeds, and this is what they were feeding on. Eventually, when all this seeding grass has gone, they even strip it virtually bare until the last of the green food's gone. And there's also insects in here what they'll be picking at in the bunches. The only problem I've found really with these birds is they seem to be feather plucking when they're in enclosed areas. These are Golden Finches from Australia originally. It's hoped one day that we can do a similar thing with our African Waxbills as they've done with the Australian birds. These birds are pretty much breed like rabbits now when you get good strains. The difference between the Australian birds and the African ones is that many of the African ones are a bit more flighty. These little Golden Finches are very steady. This is one of the little chicks we saw earlier. I've since caught it up and put a ring on it. quite a bit bigger now. This is a cock purple grenadier. These birds can be very aggressive, especially even to their own mate. And when you're first introducing them together, you could have a fight at that stage, and it can be very serious. So these are not for the newcomers to Waxbills at all, although they're very beautiful to look at. Like all species of Waxbills, they will go to nest readily, but they're a bit more fuddy with the food than some species, and they're known not to be very good feeders at all. So fostering might be a good option with these birds. This is only mid-July, and the seeding grasses are nearly done. This crop will be harvested soon, and your breeding season's still quite a way to go, and there's no seeding grasses other than what you can pick out of the hedgerows. So it's at this stage where I look to the red anjou millet sprays, or possibly even the French yellow sprays, but I don't use the Chinese ones as they don't seem as popular. This is the field next to it, which has already been cut. Once this is done, you can hunt round the hedgerows for a few bits, but you've virtually had it after this. The only good thing about it is you can get a bit of nesting material from what's been cut. These birds are one of my favourites, red-cheeked cordon blues. All very willing breeders in various situations, both in aviaries and indoor cages of a certain size, not too small. Cock to the right is obvious. One there, that's a young cock. As you can see, they're in nice condition. And they are good parents as well. This is a young hen from the same clutch. Here's a young black crown waxbill. This was the only chick in the clutch, which is unusual. Parents don't like single chicks, they like to have big clutches, so birds which feed a single bird usually prove to be very good parents. This is then cordon bleu. As you can see, the bent tail. She has got another clutch. This pair was very prolific this year, and bred at least 3 clutches of chicks. This box is going to feature shortly. It's a black crown waxbills nest, and what I did, I had some blue caps which wouldn't feed the chicks. So after losing several birds, I decided to foster some of their eggs in that box with 2 fertile black crown waxbill eggs. For any unfamiliar with waxbills, this is a pair of gold-breasted waxbills. Cock on the right, much brighter coloured, red stripe above the eye. Hen on the left is molting, as you can see the pin feathers on her head. Duller colour altogether. Easy to tell apart once they're in adult plumage. Gold-breasted waxbills will breed in cages. as individual pairs, or you can have a few more of them as a colony. But they do better with species of their own size, such as red ears, perhaps orange cheeks, something of that size, because when they're with cordon blues or something which is almost double the size, it can tend to intimidate them a little bit, and it might spoil the chances of breeding. Although you often get birds that will breed any species within a collection, the dominant species usually do better, and the submissive ones are usually the ones that don't do so well. This is a bird that's showing signs of age with the feathers missing around its head. This is often one of the signs that you look for. This takes it to the other extreme. This bird's virtually lost all its feathers round its head. It featured in my last video. It's 8 years old now, and as you can see, it's a sorry sight, but it's still perky. This is the cock violet-eared waxbill. A little delicate again, this species. Don't do well in our climate. Seem to be very easily upset. Again, they can be aggressive towards their own partner, as can the hen towards the cock. So they're another species that's not for the beginner, and they're expensive. Again, they don't seem to feed the chicks on a simple diet like the cordon blues, and seem to need something else. Once again, another species that will go to nest. It's getting them to feed the chicks that again is the problem with this species, and again introducing them together can be a problematic stage. The continentals seem to do very well with this species, and one chap went across, used their methods down south, and he bred a lot of these birds as well. We seem to be lacking behind the continentals, unfortunately. This is the hen violet-eared waxbill. Again, as you can see, she's not in perfect condition. She's molting, and as you can see, the pin feathers again. I'm sure we'll see her in a better condition at some stage. This hen grenadier is showing signs of age around her head, but she has been it's been a bit over preening her at the top of her beak, as you can see, which is part of their ritual. They are a bit over aggressive with it. As you can see, the cock's much brighter coloured than the hen. He's getting excited. Many newcomers are drawn to these species because of the beauty, but there's a lot more to these birds than the common waxbills, and they're best left to the more experienced fancier. Willing breeders, and they'll sit there and let you watch them, but they are aggressive. She's much gentler at preening him than he is with her. She is an older bird than he is, and obviously she's not in as good condition. Much gentler than he is. She would come and take mealworms from my hand. As you can see, he's much more aggressive when he's preening her. can make quite a mess and draw blood. Obviously this is not the same with all pairs, some will get on perfectly well and be much gentler than this pair. He's getting a piece of soft hay to either display with or to build his nest with. And he'll be satisfied till he gets the right piece that he wants. The orange under the vent of this orange-cheeked waxbill indicates that that's a cock. It shines like fluorescent in the spring in many birds, but not all orange cheeks have it. So I suppose it depends which part of the Africa that they've come from, but it's definitely a sign to look for when you have your own chicks. The ones with the most orange under the vent area will be the cocks. This bird, as you can see, has got none there. She's an hen. In this case it's easy, and a cheek patch is also a paler colour. Most gold-breasted waxbills are gentle-natured birds, but you can get the odd so-and-so who can be very aggressive and fight birds 2 and 3 times its own size and be an absolute nuisance. Under these circumstances you would be better exchanging that bird for another cock. They are regular breeders, a bird which again would be easy to establish. This is a cock Peter's twin spot, again another aggressive species. I would recommend that if you purchase a pair of these birds, carry them home in separate cages. Another thing, the nest on the floor, if you get them nesting, don't touch the nest under any circumstances, because the cock will probably destroy it. Just leave them alone, let them get on with it, unless of course you intended fostering the chicks. Here we have 3 young cordon blues. They've only been out of the nest probably about a month, and this young cock on the right is already displaying. Two cocks on the outside, hen is in the middle. The cock that's making all the noise is already showing his dominance to the other cock. As you can see, they have no hesitation in displaying to his own sister, and often they'll form a bond which could take some breaking, as you don't want brother and sister pairings. Many birds, when they're first imported, come in like this. These are both cordon blues, red-cheeked. If you didn't know the difference, it was very easy to pick or to be given one of these by a dealer who'll tell you that it's an hen. In a few months you'll soon know that it's a cock, because its cheek patch will be appearing. Cocks have a deeper colour blue than the hens, and there's more blue under the wing area. But to look at these birds, they look just like an older hen, except that the beak colour's not quite changed yet. This is a chick from a next clutch. You can see it's still got little tufts on its head. This is hen bird, very little blue. As you can see from the wing to chest area, very little blue on its chest. These birds do go insectivorous when they're breeding. I find that by giving them mini mealworms every 4 hours or so, that helps them to feed the chicks. It's just my way. I'm not saying that that's right. The continentals don't use live food at all, but use it from frozen and thaw it out. This is the box I spoke about earlier. Um, what you have in here is two black crown waxbill chicks, and there's quite a few blue cap chicks in there as well. And what happened was that when the black crown had finished brooding, this cock goldbreast decided he would come in and do a bit of brooding as well. Initially I was quite concerned about this because I'd only had this bird a short time and I knew nothing about him, so I was wondering whether he were going to do some harm, but after watching him for a period, it was obvious that it was no problem whatsoever. And the black crown accepted what he was doing and got on with feeding the chicks just the same. As you can see, that's the distance I am. It's about a metre away. It might be a bit rocky at times as I'm stood on a plastic garden chair. This box is there's the goldbreast nest, and his mate has got a couple of chicks in there at the moment, so just what he were doing I don't know. The black crown waxbills are a more nervous species, and they wouldn't go near the nest when I was about, so I stood about 12 foot away, and I were able to observe this behaviour and watch him go and feed the chicks from a distance.